Okay, everybody. Hello. Hey, all my guests and co-hosts are here. I'm Brian. This is BreakSec, and welcome everybody. Hey,
Hello. Hey.
hey, it's working,
Yay.
and
Yay.
it's okay. And I think we had a little double there for a second, but I think we're better now. So, um, it's fun. I'm Brian, and we're here with Bronwen, who I had mentioned earlier was speaking at a great number of places about AI. And I'll let Bronwen introduce herself. But I met her at B-Side San Diego. She was giving a workshop on making your own local AI, and I wanted to do that course. Unfortunately, I was gooning for that. I had to do security for our conference, and I was like, oh, I would love to have sat in. And then I was like, wait a minute, I have another venue that I can put her in if she'll do so. And she was amenable to it, and we finally got this started. So yeah, Bronwen, thank you for coming, and please let the world know about yourself, how you got to where you are, and your interests in AI.
We're supposed to keep this to only a couple of
Uh-oh.
hours, right? Yeah, my name's Bronwen Aker. I work for a company called Black Hills Information Security.
Yep.
Before that, I worked for another small company you might have heard of called the Sands Institute. And before doing that, I did a lot of web development all over here and yonder and various other kinds of development. And it's embarrassing to admit to how long I have actually been building web pages. Um, Clue 1992
Oh,
was when I made my first web page. And
before style sheets.
very much before style sheets.
Yes.
I remember the days when we had to use the font tag. I survived the blink tag.
Yes.
Netscape
Marquee tag.
Navigator.
Yeah. Marquee tag, baby. Yeah, that's
Yep.
all.
So
Mm.
I've been on various bleeding edges of new technologies, and my latest techno obsession is artificial intelligence. For the most part, I've been focusing on large language models, but I do keep uh, eyes and ears out for things going on with other kinds of AI. It's Artificial intelligence is such a vast universe that it's impossible to encompass all of it, but I try to keep an ear out for the big movements. And yeah,
Nice.
I've been doing talks lately about it, and I've been floored by how well received they've been, not only in terms of the fact that I was talking about it, but also that I was hitting a need in terms of what people needed to know that maybe hasn't been made as accessible to people in general.
Okay.
So
Very cool.
that's who I are, what I do.
Very nice. So we have a few topics to discuss. You've got a website that I've cribbed from a little bit based on. I think the first one I saw when I looked through this was Bronwen's blog post from 2023, and says why I am and am not afraid of AI. And so I read through this, and the first thing I saw was the why you're not, or the why you are afraid of it is longer than why you're not afraid of it. Like, or yes, I think that's the right. There was
One side was longer than the other.
yeah, one side of the argument is longer than the other. Yes, in this case, and it was like what frightens you about AI was longer than the what doesn't frighten you about AI, and I was like, oh, okay. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why it doesn't frighten you, because I think we want to speak only about the positives of this bit. So. There has been a lot of FUD about AI, but it's going to replace all the developers in the next 18 months. Security people are going to go away. It's going to solve all of our problems. That's not what I'm not worried about. But I mean, so in your opinion, why does AI not frighten you?
Well, it frightens me, and it doesn't frighten me, and the reasons have to do with use cases in both
Right.
situations. Um, there are many opportunities where AI can dramatically improve quality of life, not just for you and me, but for every human being on the planet. And leveraged appropriately, used appropriately, it could help us with areas where we have had blockers for decades. On the other hand, in the hands of people with malicious intent, and that can be um, mind control or any form of disenfranchisement of humans, it could be a very powerful tool. And unfortunately, we are seeing some of that already because we just are.
Right. Right. Is that because it's in control or it's being controlled by people who are just trying to turn a buck? I mean, is there legitimate, like, non-Sam Altman ways of using AI in a positive way?
Well, unfortunately, it comes down to the classic adage, knowledge is power. And one of the unfortunate realities of power, um, people sometimes become addicted to it. And it doesn't matter what it will take or who gets hurt in order for them to get their next fix.
Mm. Okay. All right. Ms. Berlin, Mr. Betcher, please feel free to, get involved.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say like that, and not even purposefully malicious intent. Like, just think,
Oh, yeah.
I just consider it even more job security, because just think of how, like, the ease of access of all of it now, and people are just going to implement it wrong in so many places, and we're just going to continue to have harder problems for us to solve
Yep.
because of it.
Yeah. I mean, the same thing came up with automation. There was examples of what was it, like 3, 4, 5 years ago? They were talking about machine learning at the time was still in its infancy, but it was going to replace all of security people. With the rise of the new AI models that have gone on, there's been a suggestion that they'll make some of our jobs obsolete, like SOC analysts and things like
Was
that.
that when the next gen
Probably.
bunch of buzzwords came out?
Yeah.
Was that particular wave?
Yeah.
Because
Next gen.
it's hard to keep
Yep.
track.
Yeah.
There's always
Blockchain
going to be some
enabled.
silver bullet.
Yeah.
Next gen firewalls.
That's
your
right.
network engineers are gonna, go away.
Yep.
They're gonna have to get,
Yep.
construction jobs or
Still
something.
have all the same problems, but now AI causes half of them.
Exactly.
Personally, I want an AI that can go around and clean up after my dogs without adult supervision.
Right?
Get me something like, develop an AI that can do that. You'll make bank.
Yes.
That's right. Build a better mousetrap, right?
Yep.
So there are examples of that. I think you mentioned that in the Discord here, that we should be using this as a tool to help us with automation to increase our output. I've mentioned several times on the streams, not on Sundays, but I'm learning coding using a Python AI that is called Boots on boot.dev. And it's helped me understand coding better, because I don't sit and flail when I have an issue. I can ask Boots, in this case, how to fix the issue. And there's a whole thing, they call it vibe coding now. Depending on who you talk to, you get blocked or whatever. I don't know what that means. I hear I'm cool if I say that word.
No, you're not. It means that you're clueless.
Well, I am clueless. I've tried several times to learn Python, and it hasn't stuck. So
I think vibe coding is just the next version of people copying and pasting from Stack Overflow.
That's exactly it.
Right?
Vibe coding is, and I think I dropped out for a second. Vibe coding is taking whatever an AI gives you and copy pasting it without taking a look to see whether it got it right, without checking to see if it actually does what it says it's supposed to do.
Right.
None of that stuff. So vibe coding, Amanda, you said it perfectly. It's the latest thing of copy pasting from whatever stack.
Yeah.
Right.
And I put a example in the show notes of one that we talked about at work the other day, where, speaking of vibe coding, people are just copying and pasting code from AI, and it's like hallucinating packages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? So like attackers are like typo squatting on those fake packages. And I mean, we've seen that too in like typos in other code, right? There's been a typo on Stack Overflow or a link that doesn't go anywhere anymore. And yeah, it's the same concept, just faster.
Right.
But your use case, Brian, is one of the things that I hammered on a fair amount when I was doing the prompt engineering talks. And one of the things that I specifically mentioned is any person who feels at all uncomfortable for any reason asking a coworker or someone else, or maybe you don't have someone with expertise in what it is you're trying to learn. An LLM, especially something like ChatGPT, Claude, and the various ones out there, they can be massively helpful to an individual who enjoys self-teaching, who enjoys learning things on their own.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a completely non-judgmental resource to ask questions and refine your own thinking if you choose to use it in that way. And that's where it's a tool. Used well, it can make so many points of pain go away.
Right.
Except PowerShell.
Exactly.
Well, it could query some PowerShell. It can teach you, and a lot of the Stack Overflow comments are, because you're not checking because you're not skilled yourself, and there's some blind trust, right? We blind trust a lot of new technology. It's whether or not you are in a new Tesla or shit car. Or blockchain. Everybody's trying to get on blockchain. Everybody's trying to get on AI because it's a force multiplier. It's a way to lay people off in some cases to save money. But yeah, so there's a lot that can be done with it in a positive manner. But for me, it feels like a lot of companies are just trying to bolt AI onto every product they have, whether or not it actually makes sense. Or it's like the blockchain stuff. Everything's enabled with blockchain. It's like, well, how are you actually using blockchain? Well, we're either using it improperly, or we're just saying it has blockchain. It really doesn't have anything like that in there. And there's only very few that are actually using AI or blockchain in a legitimate way. Because they've invested a ton of money in this, so they're looking for that return on investment. And there's already been people in the industry, like I think Satya Nadella from Microsoft was like starting to temper expectations of, we've spent $10 billion and we're still expecting maybe to get our return on investment sometime between now and the year 3000.
Luck with that.
Yeah, you say AI and then people throw money at you. So, yeah, I'm not pessimistic about it because as somebody who is of a certain age and is trying to upskill, having it as a tool to use and being able to understand at least what's going on when I'm writing the code makes sense, and I find that quite interesting. So you said you work for Black Hills and you do you're technical writer as well, right? You do some technical writing?
What I started doing for them at first was just editing and co-authoring their reports from pen testers. And back then we had maybe 50 people all told at BHIS. It's grown quite a bit since then. And now there are 4 of us who do the grammarian style writing, and the peer editing and reviewing is done by other testers within the testing core. So
Right.
every report gets a lot of eyes on it before it goes out the door.
Okay.
But in addition, now I'm doing stuff related to AI. I've done a couple of other things involved with anti-siphon and other tribes within the BHIS tribe of companies.
So I wasn't trying to jump around here. My thought was, I know that when I worked at Leviathan a few years ago, we were trying to create like a, if you have a cross-site scripting, we tried to have not canned language, but we tried to have language that was very similar. It's like, this is what cross-site scripting is, and then we would have the recommendations based on that engagement at the time. I imagine with the rise of AI that you're going to have people who are going to be writing reports and using things like ChatGPT to say, hey, I've got insecure direct object reference, please. As an, if you're an expert in, in web app security, please explain to me that in a way to save time and effort of writing that report. And I imagine that, because I used to work with people who had to write these reports, nobody likes writing those reports. And even though it's what they pay for, what the customer pays for, the temptation is there to use that. How are we leveraging it at certain levels, like consultancies for that? I don't want to say that y'all are using that, but I was like, is that being used in our industry to more often now?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I know for a fact that a lot of people throughout the entire industry are using AI, and we have an official AI policy. We have things that we've defined for the time being. This is acceptable use for business purposes. This is not. But given how quickly AI is evolving, the policy that we have today may be totally different a week from now because of how quickly that landscape is changing. And the beauty of it, again, it all depends on how it's used. If somebody is knowledgeable, the thing that I love about, and we'll just stick with LLMs for the time being. My roommate is a retired military firefighter and he's gone back to college for a degree in emergency management. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he wants to say, but he's not a writer.
Right.
And what the large language models do is empower people who have never, for whatever reason, their brain doesn't work well when it comes to stringing words together to communicate things. But he can recognize, yes, that's what I want to say, or no, that's not what it is. And that's how he uses it. And the things that he has been able to generate using a large language model as an assistant.
Right.
That has been wonderfully empowering. And that's a beautiful positive use case where used well. Yes, children can benefit, but they have to understand how to use the tool. Managers, any person who's driving a keyboard for any type of work can benefit from it, and it can become a force multiplier in that regard. But again, it's knowing how to use the tool. And what I foresee is that same kind of rapid evolution that happens anytime there's a disruptive innovation. So when cars were first invented, there were many different ways to conduct one of these horseless carriages. And it was only after years of evolution and trial and error that things started to settle down. And now cars they're almost appliances.
Right.
You don't even hardly need to know how to drive one.
Right.
Or build it, or maintain it
Maintain
or
it.
anything, right?
So we are at the very, very beginning cusp. And I guarantee 10 years from now, what we're doing with this technology will be almost unrecognizable compared to what we're doing with it now.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, one of the, when we were talking about, reporting and all that, my concern is that people will assume that we're just generating a bunch of stuff based on AI and that they're not getting their money's worth. How are we going to continue to provide value when companies can say, well, you sent me something that I can generate myself in ChatGPT or what have you. Is it good prompt engineering? Are they spending money on our prompt engineering and getting the answers there? Is there still going to be a need for people to pop shells and do physical pen tests, or hey, I can download Kali and White Rabbit Neo and do everything that you wanted to? How are we going to continue in InfoSec showing our value when people will just want whatever's quick, fast, and easy?
There isn't an easy answer to that. And I absolutely know that there are people out there who will be able to leverage AI tools to do a lot of fake it till you make it. But in the process, I think that they would probably learn a lot along the way if they're paying attention to what they're doing. On the other hand, people who actually know what they're doing will be able to focus more on doing better at the hard part. And most recently with BHIS, I've been working for most of the year with the continuous pen testing group. And that team, being immersed and around and watching the things that they do and the way that they think, is totally different from how normal people operate. It's a completely different come from, and it's not the kind of thing that can be readily taught without a community immersion experience where you're getting a chance to see people. So a live gathering with a live CTF where you're working with a team, that would be the closest thing to being able to share information the way they do and to get that kind of alternate perception. The LLM isn't going to give that to you, no, but it can also help you learn so that when you go into an environment, then you've got more to bring to the party.
Right.
That was totally rambling, I know.
No, that's great. That's great stuff. So we actually have a couple of questions from our Twitch chat, and I do apologize if you were watching us on YouTube. Having some issues with encoding errors. Simulcasting didn't work so well, so I didn't want to have a bunch of drop packets there. So somebody said, Wave AJ, thank you for being here. First response, first time joining. As someone who's looking to transition into AI risk roles, specifically in GRC, what are some tips on finding a role? One thing I've been doing is training and awareness training in senior homes about deep fakes and smishing. So it sounds like Wave AJ is working to help people be educated about misinformation or being scammed. So are there roles out there in GRC, or if or risk roles for GRC about this, if you know?
I'm not a GRC expert.
I am not a GRC expert myself either. I would imagine that there's going to be some governance roles about AI, the overuse of it. I would say you might need a lawyer and degree for that, or you're going to need to work on that. There has to be GRC for this. It's moving faster than GRC can keep up, as we've seen.
I was going to say, I don't know that they have updated anything to catch up with how fast AI's hit the market.
Right. Yeah. I know, even things like PCI was a little behind the times on passwords for years. They were still touting upper lower number special 8 characters when it was like, yeah, maybe that shouldn't be a thing. So Yeah, I would say yes, there will be jobs for that.
We're definitely on the bleeding edge.
Yeah, I know that I went to the Sans AI summit that just happened recently. I heard our good friend Mick Douglas, who was also there, ask a few questions of the speakers in the audience. But they had pushed out some guidance at Sans about AI security. There may be some governance bits in there as well, but I think one of the things that I wanted Bronwen on for was because a lot of companies are wanting to use AI. They just don't want to use an AI they don't control, like the new cloud, if you will. So they don't want to put their entire, business product roadmap inside of ChatGPT and then say, what do, how make, please give me $1 billion idea. And then ChatGPT's, implied or no, there's a thought that ChatGPT would take that information and train it so that the next person who comes in and says, "Hey, what do?" You'd be like, "Well, your competitor has uploaded their product line for the next 3 years, and this is what I told them to do."
So actually, it isn't so much having that information be used to train the next generation. All of the providers of, say, web-based or app-based LLM use, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT, OpenAI, or one of the others, if you're having to send something, sound or text, off to a server and then have it come back, there are many, many opportunities for that conversation to be interrupted and for that information to be leaked. And unfortunately, the usual suspects are still the most reliable suspects as far as security for that. But then, assuming that the in-transit conversation remained intact, most of them, I know OpenAI and I'm pretty sure Anthropic, both retain the conversation and its contents, so the entire interaction, for a period of time. And then depending on whatever their data retention policy is, theoretically, it will be deleted.
Right.
So for however long that data is at rest, it is at risk.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily concerned so much about the providers like OpenAI, Anthropic, and so on, but it's also about the fact that they are very big targets, very tasty targets, because of the volume of data that they are handling. And if somebody gets persistence inside their network, they've got it all.
Right. And I mean, we've seen an example of that. Was that not deep fake? It was DeepSeek. Yeah, DeepSeek.
The Chinese one.
Yeah. There was some suggestions in the news that, DeepSeek or somebody came in and said, hey, they did some speed dating and they distilled the AI from it was ChatGPT, one of those big ones and they basically distilled everything to the people who wrote DeepSeek over there. And it's possible. I mean, it's code, so it's written by people who don't necessarily think about security, which is why I don't think security will ever go away, because there will always be bugs in code. Hallucinations will always still exist, and input validation is still a thing. That's why I don't think it'll go away. Security-wise, but yeah, it almost feels like we're back to the on-prem versus cloud thing. It's like when people, back in my day, people didn't want to move to the cloud because the cloud was somebody else's computer, so everything was supposed to stay in-house. Now we're back to AI, and it's like, well, we don't want to go out to the cloud. We're going to stay in-house, and there's still a lot of companies that are still wanting to do that because they have a lot of information that they can't collate easily. And so they're wanting to create local AIs that can, like a RAG, like a retrieval augmented generation, which I have some links in our show notes for that. And you can set those up. And that's one of the reasons one of the many reasons I wanted to have you on, Bronwen, but because your workshop at B-Side San Diego, and I think you did it at Layer 1 and at Hope, Forgive me if I'm wrong.
Layer 1 hasn't happened this year yet.
Yeah. Oh, it's next month. That's
It's
right.
coming up in May.
Right.
It was Scale that I was
Scale.
at.
That's it.
Scale. But I mean, I talk at Layer 1 all the time, and I've already submitted a repeat of the local LLM talk that I gave. Well, no, I did the workshop at B-Sides, but it's the same talk that I gave at Scale. I'll be
Right.
giving again, assuming that Layer 1 picks it up.
Right.
So RAG is very exciting, and especially for individuals or organizations that have security concerns for whatever reason. They want to have systems that are under their control. And the reality is, with a fairly robust gaming system, I can do a tremendous amount just on my own. Give me a couple of extra, instead of one video card with 24 gigabytes of video RAM, get me 5.
Right.
And then let's figure out a way to put them into however many systems necessary to utilize them all, and then go to town. With that kind of power, the things that you can do are just awe-inspiring.
Right.
I was able to train on my old system. Last Christmas, I gave myself a new, more powerful system with GPUs.
Nice.
And my old system, having just 8 cores, and okay, it did have 64 gigs of RAM, but no GPUs. That system still managed to train hundreds of thousands of images. This was for my capstone project for a class I took last year. Take images of red blood cells. Some have been infected by malaria. Some are not infected. And so you've got your training data, you've got your testing data. You use that, train a brand new model by combining an existing model and adding this additional training so that it can recognize infected red blood cells, the positive potential impact for something like that, to be able to save lives through training something that I can train on my desktop.
Right.
That's the type of innovation that we have the ability to do today.
Right.
So that was going to be my other questions, is like, what other cool things have you seen for innovation that you just like really geek out over? And I love that one. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Just to give an idea too, imagine the number of X-ray records that an established dentist's office would collect over a period of, let's say, just 5 years. Now run that set of data through a training process. And it's not for anybody. I mean, okay, yeah, I have my bachelor's and master's both in cybersecurity. I've been working with computers a long time, but I am not the most wonderful programmer. I am not the most exotic geek on the planet. There are other people out there who are smarter than me, who can take this stuff and run with it using off-the-shelf equipment and information that you can get just by learning how to use Jupyter notebooks.
Right. Right.
The potential for grassroots innovation is huge.
Right.
And that is something that hasn't been brought up. They want you to always go for the biggest and the most expensive. Right. So that the ones who are peddling all of these services, they want you to stay addicted to their big data and ignore all of the data that you have already. Right. You said yourself, Brian, you're a data hoarder. How many decades of data? How many different training opportunities? How many different specialist systems do you think that you could train with data you already have in your possession?
Oh, I've got a couple of 20 terabyte drives sitting over there as backups with stuff on them. I've got, here's a couple terabytes here. Here's a terabyte. I've got 4 terabytes in this. So
Okay, you have volume. Do you have organization?
No organization
Right.
whatsoever.
No, none at all.
And some of that is why I was like hoping the RAG stuff would help out, because then I could
Maybe
just
AI could help you organize it.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
Brian, you have 3 million of this file, and you should probably not.
I did talk to somebody at B-Sides Charm that was training a local AI or LLM on all of the Enron data.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
wow.
Right? I'm like,
Oh,
that's
wow.
interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in that case, any large data set, I mean, you could do the WikiLeaks stuff. You could
Seriously.
do the, you could look through the
sure
Snowden
people
docs
are.
or whatever and find
Yeah.
stuff that people might have missed, or inferences, or analyzing data that, maybe use it for the U.S. budget if we have one.
Yeah, we do. It's
Yeah.
it'll probably be hidden.
Yeah. So one of the things that I learned during your workshop was that prompt engineering is important, and that AIs are only as good as, and I kind of call it the new Google dorking, because if you don't know how to ask a question to the AI, you're not going to get that answer. And one of the things that I've started doing is giving it a scenario like, you're the greatest dungeon master ever, because I'm asking a lot of RPG questions. I'm like, you're the greatest dungeon master of Wizards of the Coast 5e. What's the ruling for this? And it does pretty good. And so one of the things you told us about was Daniel Meisler's Fabric GitHub, which is about a bunch of examples with regard to prompt engineering. And why is prompt engineering? I've given one example, but prompt engineering is I just scratched the surface. So maybe you could give us some more examples of why prompt engineering is so important in this respect.
Well, this is where any previous knowledge of working with computers, if you've done anything with database queries and having to extract through Google Docs or some other method, a way of crafting something so that you can get the information you want out, that will be useful experience for you as you learn prompt engineering, because it's basically the same thing. It's learning how to provide enough context, enough specificity, specific directions, and yet also allow for a little open-endedness. And it's about knowing what the question is. I mean, 42, man, come on. It's the ultimate answer, but what's the question?
Exactly.
And without knowing the question, of course you're not going to get anything meaningful. So it's exactly that same conundrum. And this is where one of the things that you have to pay attention to if you do start downloading and using your own models is, an instruct model is not going to give you the ability to have the kind of ongoing conversation where you start a brainstorming conversation. And again, this is another way that LLMs are wonderful, is that I can have a brainstorming conversation. I know kind of where I want to go, and I can't get it out of my brain. So I use it as a sounding board. And okay, well, what about this? I thought this other thing. And then eventually, boom, now I have something I can work with for whether it's writing a blog post or figuring up another talk or something related to work. It's just about you finding that proper use case. And that sounding board is another excellent one too.
Okay, so you mentioned at least 2 or 3 different models.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, so there's you said the brainstorming one, and then there's the how many are there? I mean,
Are you talking about techniques or ways to use models? Because let me see if I can find that slide deck. On one of the slide decks I have for a previous talk, I break down different kinds of interactions, different kinds of prompts.
Okay.
And so in the prompt engineering talk. So the simplest is like a one-shot question. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
Right.
And very, very straightforward, very simple, very Google-esque if you're used to just typing things randomly into Google. Then you can provide something that is a little more specific where, okay, I have these 30 lines that have this word and I need to have it replaced to do something else. You can do it like that if you don't know how to use regex.
Right. Right.
If you want to get the most bang for your buck, however, you want to have a prompt that has complexity and provides context. So, and this is where Daniel Miesler's patterns, the patterns that are part of the Fabric tool, are a master class in prompt engineering. And in no small part because there are so many different prompts in such. I don't know why my camera is being so weird. Sorry about it zooming in and out. It's driving me crazy too.
That's okay.
What I get for a fancy AI-driven camera. Would you just settle down, please? Anyway, the prompt that will give you the most bang for your buck is one where you say, as you mentioned earlier, you give it a role. This is your identity. This is who you are, your reason for existence. This is everything that matters to you. And in as long or short a statement as you want to do. Who are you? Then what is the task that we are going to attack? What is the goal we are trying to achieve?
Mhm.
So it can be something simple like putting together a quiz with questions and answers, or refining the output of some JSON tool.
Right.
You know, you're getting a JSON file and you want to have it cleaned up or turned into something else, and being able to go through that. Figuring out how to get a script for something. I mean, there's so many different use cases. And then, if possible, give an example of what that will look like in the output. So for going back to the quiz maker, which is one of the examples that we train an LLM to do in the workshop I give. Here's an example of the actual structure of the area of God, I'm losing my words. the area of specialty, the focus that we're going on, subject matter. There we go.
Right.
The subject matter, question, answer, whatever. And then on to saying, now take the input. All of that content can go into a simple markdown file. And on Fabric, there are dozens. So if you want something to review academic papers or help with your calendars or a Pilates schedule, I mean, you can set up a model to do just about anything you want.
Okay.
And then you combine that, and if you're working with Olama, it's a one-line command to combine the model. As long, if you haven't downloaded the model, you need to download it first. Okay, here, do this, create, here's the model, here's what the new one's going to be called. Here's a text file that you should import into it. And boom, it's done. Truly, truly accessible to a large number of people.
Right. You just have to, know how to get the, so there's always refinement, right? So if you don't get what you get, the first time you say, well, this is not exactly what I'm looking for a little more of this, until you get the right answer. My problem is, how do you know you've gotten the right answer? How do you know it's not hallucination in this case? Or
that's where a little bit of subject knowledge is helpful, or there are always ways how can you validate whether a Nessus scan is pulled up a legit vulnerability or a false positive?
Trust but verify, right?
Yep.
So in that case, for me, I would not bother to ask the LLM if this was a legitimate issue from Nessus. I just go directly to the verification process.
Well, okay, but the LLM may give you a place to start. And once you've created a new tool, if it has demonstrated reliability, then you give it more trust.
I see. Okay.
So, for example, I did something similar when I made my CVE summarizer on ChatGPT. Let me find the link for you. It's around here somewhere.
Timely, by the way, the CV summarizer. You know, after all the stuff that CVE has had, MITRE has to go through in the last couple of weeks.
Lordy Lou.
I'm glad they created the foundation, because now they can not, you know, be on the teat of the U.S. government, and they can, you know, start expanding that out. So, but yeah,
I do find that when you do it for like research and stuff, having it specific, like I ask a lot of times for it to specifically give me exact locations of where it pulled the information from.
Okay, so cite your sources.
Yes, because
Okay.
that's helped a ton.
Right.
Because even if you use like the Google thing that pops up the AI thing on the top, like even the links that they link to there are kind of hallucinations, right? Like
They can be. They can be.
may
Sometimes
they
they
may
are.
like touch on a topic but has nothing to do with what you asked.
Right. All right. Mr. Betcher's having some internet connectivity issues, so he'll join us back as soon as he can. Yeah.
So in chat, I shared a link with the CVE summarizer, and
Okay.
this is a beautiful example of a force multiplier. So when I think I was only one of two editors that we had at BHIS, and we were getting 15 to 20 or more reports each per week, and having to go through a lot of reading and a lot of attention to detail. And sadly, one thing that testers will sometimes do is they will name drop anywhere from 1 to 5 CVEs with no context.
Oh, I see. So this was like, oh, you know, we discovered this vulnerability much like 2025 33, and you're like,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, we found an LFT and, you know, RBJ and whatever. Okay, what are those acronyms? Hello,
Yep.
you know. Okay.
So I
get
made
that.
the CVE summarizer for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
So that I would know.
Nice.
I wasn't doing it for them. I wanted to know, what does this, they've name dropped a CVE. What the frack is the CVE doing?
right.
What is it
right.
about? And I would go initially to NIST or to MITRE or to wherever, and I'm sorry, those things were absolutely written by engineers.
Yeah.
And that's not the way my brain works. I
Right.
am closer to human than that. So I wanted to have, and I know for a fact that something covered in one source may not be covered in another, and vice versa. So if I could get a summary,
Right.
and I told my summarizer to go and basically figure it out, and it gives me, here's the identifier. If there's a popular name, I want that information, and I have it in a very specific report like format. And matter of fact, I berate it when it doesn't perform according to its script.
So these are the ones that actually don't say embargoed or like reserved or whatever, that they, hopefully they're like, you know, this is Dirty Cow or MSO 8067 or something that's fairly well known.
It goes back and forth. When I first made the CVE summarizer, one of the things that I specifically ask for are known exploits, or reports of recent attacks. Is it actually being used in the wild? Are there any proofs of concept, that sort of thing? And at first, it wouldn't give me links to any POCs, none.
Well,
And
that kind of
then,
makes sense. It's like a, are you making a
and
Molotov
then
cocktail kind of thing?
Right. Right.
a couple months later, now it's giving me those links.
Oh, is it because it trusts
And
you now, or
it goes back and forth. It's really weird.
Okay.
I I
Okay.
I don't make a lot of changes to the custom GPT, the chat summarizer, because I want it works well. So as long as nothing on the other side, namely OpenAI side, gets too mangled, it should be fine just as is, right?
Right.
And I can always clone it and make another one and play with it if for some reason it isn't doing enough. But it works perfectly for its intended task.
Nice. Okay. Could that be because there's enough people maybe using the similar AI asking for the same vulnerabilities, and after a while it's like, okay, there's enough people asking, maybe I can start,
Yep.
um,
But this is where if I wanted to have a better rounded cybersecurity assistant, say,
right.
create a Jarvis with a more narrow focus and maybe call him Doc something or other. I figure some name up for him. But have something where it can use RAG. So any newsletters, if I were to automate something, just total brainstorming. If I were to automate something, I would take every cybersecurity newsletter that I subscribe to
Right.
and capture that text and create a RAG stack from that text that could be used by an AI that I interact with on a regular basis. And then at some interval, I could condense that data and use it as additional training for a model.
Right.
And when you do that, it's much more intense because you have to pre-process the data before it can be fed into the model. And I'm not going to go into all it, but if you really want to go deep down the AI, make your own model rabbit hole, you're going to have to learn some data science, which means not only getting your math to be better, but pay some attention to statistical analysis because you will need it.
I have a data wizard at work. She's amazing, and I am not good at that. And she knows her way around a SQL query. She has. It's truly, she's a data wizard, and I call her that. I've been trying to learn that stuff, but yeah, my maths is not so good. I'm still learning with an abacus and stuff. So
I have to tell you that like ChatGPT and Anthropic has made my SQL skills infinitely better.
oh, I love it. Especially so we use like Hadoop. Well, we use a lot of shit, but Hadoop is one of them. So HiveQL is one of those. So it's like you feed it the table and the fields, and you say, well, I need this field and this table and this table, and I need to make a thing that munges them together. It's actually better than, because I have no clue. So I just run it and then hope it works. I have no idea. I'm vibe querying.
Your
or
vibe
whatever.
coding.
I'm vibe querying, yeah, because I have no idea if it's going to work or not, but it's non-destructive for me. So I just pop it in and I go, oh, it doesn't work, or it's trying to do blah, and I say, hey, buddy, it doesn't work. Here's the error message I'm getting. Maybe you should try again. And it's like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Here, try this. And then as we're moving along, I eventually get what I need. But yeah, it's I guess in that case I'm vibe prompting because I don't know HiveQL for nothing. So, but it works. It's actually better than average. Like after the second time, and then it figures it out, because it's like I need to pull this field from this one and do a fuzzy match on these fields here and make sure that they work. And not bad. It's not bad, especially for the SQL stuff. So. I don't know if you want to do this, but one of the things that I did kind of suggest that was we would set up a local AI, and I don't know if we've got time for that, but I mean we can go quick.
I can do that.
Okay.
No, I can do that.
We can share the
need to go to
screen if you
bed.
want to. What's that, Miss Berlin? What?
I have to go to bed eventually. I get up real early.
Okay, if you need to drop off, that's fine. We will continue on. I know you have to get up early. Mr. Betcher is still working on his internet, so but if you do need to drop off, just say when, and we'll let you go, and we'll continue on. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Cool.
Nice to have met you, Amanda.
Yes, you too.
I've seen your name around. Always good things.
Yep. Have you yeah, I'm sure be working at BHIS, you'll be at some of their conferences and stuff. So I'm sure I'll
Every now and again, I'm debating whether or not to make the annual pilgrimage to South Dakota this year. We'll see.
This last year was my first time I went. I loved it.
Last year, I mean, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful place. It absolutely has local character and charm.
I want to go to that because my wife wants to go to Devil's Tower. The problem is it takes 2 flights regardless of whichever way you go. I have to go through Salt Lake or I have to go through Denver.
Oh, no,
because I don't drive.
So remote.
I do not drive.
Why? It's probably closer to you than it is to me.
No, thank you.
Well, not anymore. Now you're down at the bottom of the country.
Yeah, well, if I was in Seattle, I would fly from Seattle to Minneapolis to Deadwood or to Rapid City, or I'd have to fly to Seattle to Denver or Salt Lake up there. So either way, I'd be traveling, in the opposite direction of where I needed to go. But San Diego, we'd fly San Diego, Denver to Rapid City. But the wife wants to go to Devil's Tower, which you go there and it's still a 3-hour drive. No matter which airport you go from, it seems to be right in the middle of about 3 different airports you could go to. But I would love to go to far Wild West Hacking Fest, and then there's one in Denver, similarly, I think, in
Mile High Hacking Fest.
Mile High Hacking Fest, yeah.
They're trying to have it more than one location. We've had Deadwood maxed out. We can't accommodate more people than we already do.
Well, the Holiday Inn Express is down the street. You could probably get another 20 or 30 people in there.
They're all filled. We filled them all.
God! Wow. Okay.
We fill the entire town.
You have to
they know when we've come to town.
Are there
campsites? They're gonna have to build their own
campsites. You could put a tent up or something. I know a guy who ran a camping InfoSec conference once, so got a little experience in that. So anyway.
Okay. All right. Let me get something set up here.
Okay.
And do our own thing.
So while we're doing this, Wave AJ says, besides AI, what are y'all's thoughts on emerging technologies like quantum computing down the line? Also can connect with you guys on LinkedIn. Yeah, sure. You connect with us on LinkedIn. Just look us up and then connect. Quantum computing, I mean, right now we're just trying to get post-quantum encryption keys and stuff in things like SSH and whatever.
Now I'm just trying to get people's exchange servers off the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Quantum computing is a far stretch for me.
Yeah. Again, that's going to be one of those ultra rich things, probably used in a lot of research. I don't know how we will use it in security yet.
Nobody does.
I would say the first teams that will use it will probably use it to try to crack passwords, because that's what they do. Yeah. They won't use it for pen testing. Yeah. Hacking. Yeah. Would you like to play a game? No, I do not want to play a game. The only way to do not want to play that game.
The quantum computing AI.
Yeah. With the blockchain. Add the blockchain. Make sure you get that blockchain in there. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm just getting things set up here.
No, it's okay. I rarely give myself dead air, so I'm allowing myself to grow as a person by having a little dead air, because I am an hour and a half of nothing but speaking when I'm on my streams on Tuesdays and Fridays. So
we could just sit here and stare at each other.
Okay. You want to have an awkward pause like Craig Ferguson used to do?
Do you at work we do a 7-second? We have a 7-second rule. If someone can count to 7 seconds and no one says anything, we're done.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. No questions, we're done.
Nice. Yes, allow. There we go.
Yay! I had to ask for permission.
That's right. I got this mother locked down because I'm security and stuff.
And stuff. All right. So what we have here, let's see, will it follow?
You got a terminal window up there.
Okay.
Your Star
That's
Trek
what
fanfic
it ought to
is
be.
your Star Trek fanfic is in the other one, I'm sure. So
all good. Nope, this is the one I wanted. So on this, I have Olama already installed, and I already have several
nice.
models created.
Okay.
So let's see. Let me double check. And now they probably haven't been updated in the past 2 weeks, or if they have, it's fine. So the three here at the bottom, these are off the shelf, provided by different LLM players. So Phi comes from Microsoft, Mistral comes from the Mistral organization. Llama is, I believe, a meta derivative. So
right.
they playing with those is relatively safe compared to others that you might download off of Hugging Face. So then from those, I made a Daffy Duck and a Quizmaker. So just to show you how difficult this is, let's see.
Wait, you made Daffy Duck and Quizmaker?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I did.
Nice.
So, and it's really, you know what? I'm going to have to change the sharing here. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Because I want to be able to show more than one thing at once.
Okay.
And I think I know. Pardon as I rearrange my entire desktop.
That's okay. So, yeah, while we're doing this, olama.com, you can go there, download the application that Bronwen is using in the command line. Now, olama.com is a little different in terms of software. You have to be familiar with the CLI, or the command line interface, how you do this, because there's no UI. You have to use commands through that. One thing that I find annoying about Olama is I would really like for it to tell you what it has available, because you have to move the CLI out of the way, go to olama.com, search through the models there, and then go and download it through the CLI, which I find stupid. They should be able to go query what all is available, and then it's like gives you a list, like, you know, from a menu, and you go, oh, I'll take, you know, number 97, you know, and it'll download number 97 for you, but it doesn't do that, which I find glaringly obvious feature to put into the command line, but that's just me. So
Probably fairly easy.
Look, I work with people that have fucked up a ticketing system, so you know.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started.
Jira?
No. We have that.
No.
No, okay. It's homegrown.
Oh.
Probably shouldn't say anything.
I'm trying to figure out how to get this. No, that's not what I want. Arg. I'm trying to share two screens at once, and I think I'm going to just cheat. Like, no, it won't.
You could ask an AI.
I have a 49-inch monitor, and I'm used to being able to use.
We're just all getting our rulers out now. We're going to measure our monitors.
This is why all I hear is people complain all the time when they have these big I mean, they look great, but anytime you have to do like advanced screen sharing, it's nothing but problems. So I other than cost, that's why I don't.
Is it one of those, like, you know, half, you know, things that come around, like, you know, command center? I got two 32-inch Dells right here that are pretty damn nice, but you know, those were not bad. So
all right, let me try this. Hold on.
Oh, you know what? Now that you...
Oh, wait, it says hold control to select multiple windows. I may have just learned a new Zoom trick.
Yes.
No way.
Okay, so if this works properly...
I wonder how it displays.
Okay, so there's one. Hold control. Select the other.
I don't use Zoom enough to know, so...
I use it all the time. And
I
I
will
never...
send you a screenshot. What do you see now?
No way.
I
It's
see
very
you.
small.
I see you, and I see the terminal, and I see what can I help you with? Yeah.
Let me see if I can. Nope, nope, nope.
But you're a normal size. I don't know how you see it, Brian. Oh,
Is
look at
that better?
you're like
What they're trying to do, what they're
superimposed
trying to do is do like OBS like stuff where you've got
This
the
is so
guy in the
great.
corner, and yeah.
Okay. I don't know if this is zoomed in enough that you can see.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. Cool. All right. So what I wanted to do was to be able to have the ability to show stuff in a web browser and also send commands because, of course, what would experimenting with toys be without having to go to GitHub to look stuff up, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So Olama, of course, is the tool that I'm using. And when you go into the download, depending on your operating system, you can get access to different executables, except for Linux people who they use a one-shot command to pull in a shell script. One of the people at B-Sides commented about the degree of trust to download and immediately launch a shell script from a full.
Yeah.
See, no one cares anymore.
I
I
know.
talk about this stuff all the time where like that's one of our like install things for people we onboard is just this PowerShell script that downloads and runs stuff.
Yep.
And as an admin, I would have never ever done that. And now people do it all the time.
Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick. Actually, I shouldn't do this. If I already have Olama installed, if I wanted to double check and make sure it was the latest version, I would run this. But if I run this, it'll wind up making this longer, so I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
But because it'll take several minutes, and I don't want to abuse people by making them sit through it, download involuntarily. So, like I said, the command is nice, and then when you go to the GitHub repo, once you scroll down past all of the files and get to the README content, it has a lot of information, including that same command. And you can go deeper into the installation process if you're one of those people who has to have granular control over every single thing that you do to your systems. And no, that is not a dig. I admire and respect people like you.
No, that Gen 2 people are wrong, and they're what's wrong with Mary. Anyway, I'm only about 33% true on that, but yeah.
Okay, so it's there for you. And then you get down and further on describes a lot of different popular models and what the actual download command is. And then finally, way down here, we get to the instructions on how to customize a model. And it really is not that difficult. First, you have to pull a model to work with. I have 3 off the shelf that I can use. And then the instructions for how that model are going to be customized are in what is called a model file. And I believe, let me take a look here. Oops, I guess I didn't do that. Help if I could type. Okay, so let's do. So I have 2 model files that I've already created, the Daffy model file and the Quizmaker model file. And both of them are essentially following this recipe here. And the first line in the file is from Olama 3.2. So the first line of instruction is the from statement. What model are you going to use as your foundation upon which to build?
Right.
Next is this line, which is an inline comment. It begins with a hashtag, or for those who are more interested in esoterica, octothorpes.
Octothorpe.
Yes.
Yay, Octothorpe! And this says you want to set the temperature. Now, the temperature determines the degree of randomness. It's between 0 and 1, not Boolean. It is not Boolean. It is a range. So a temperature of 0.7 is perfectly legitimate, but 1 is the maximum. You track me?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. So if you have the temperature set to 1, you will get more variety in the responses. If you set it closer to 0, it will be basically the same prompt will generate the same response every time.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, and I've seen instances working with different products that are available online. Some of them are more creative. They allow for more randomizing than others. And I leverage that.
Right.
There are times
Right.
when I want it to be less creative. Then everything between this triple double quote, yes, it's 3 double quotes in a row.
Right.
And it brackets, and everything between that is the instructions for the system. Now, their example is, you are Mario from Super Mario Brothers. Answer is Mario, the assistant only. So let me clear things out here. Oops, would help. And let's do a quick cat. And I believe I had. So here's the contents of the model file for Daffy. I'm not a big Mario fan. He's okay, but he's not my favorite. So I went with Daffy. And then, so once you have your model file, and I'm following the exact same formula from the temperature, I lowered the temperature a little bit to demonstrate that it's a range, not 1 or, but between and including 1 and 0. And then the instructions. And then here is the command to actually make a new model. So let's down here. So I already have the model made, so it's just going to recreate it.
Mm-hmm.
So Olama create, and since I'm calling mine Daffy, you know what? I'm going to make it Daffy 2, so that way we have a Daffy and a Daffy 2.
Fantastic.
So this is a brand new model, and let's see. So right. TAC F, yes, there is a file coming, and it will be in Olama, and it is the Daffy, and I love tab autocomplete, enter. Boom.
So that it looks a lot like a Docker container kind of output. One of the things I've always looked at when I download these things is it has very similar to a Docker output, but it's not running Docker in this case. You don't necessarily have to have Docker running on your box for this to work. So how's it getting away with that?
I don't know enough about how it works under the covers to answer that question.
Okay.
But I would not be at all surprised, because I know it is also fairly easy to have a llama running inside a Docker container.
Right.
So if you or somebody else happens to like working with Docker, this is another opportunity for you to use both the LLM and Docker at the same time.
Right.
All right. So yeah, it was that easy. Now, granted, I've got a Threadripper, I've got GPUs, I've got a respectable amount of RAM, but my system is just a mostly off-the-shelf gaming system. It's not super, it's not the Whopper. It's not that big. So now let's run. Actually, let me clear first.
Yeah, one of the things when I was looking at my, looking at models that I could run on OS X, because it doesn't have NVIDIA, right? So you're more limited to the models, because if you're using one that only uses NVIDIA GPUs, they may have a CPU-like downgrade, which will slow me down. But yeah, it's interesting to see that it's pretty limited to anything that doesn't run NVIDIA. So even AMD was somewhat limited, even though it has a lot of the same instructions.
Anyway, so you can
Nice.
see the Daffy model is doing stuff in character, which
Right.
is nice. I've seen people use a combination of a llama, a pie, and a small screen and a book to craft a never-ending storybook.
Oh.
So the story just keeps evolving and evolving and evolving, and it's all fed by an LLM.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
I'd have to find that YouTube video. It was the maker who did it just did amazing work elsewhere. So when you're in the Olama interface, if you have questions, the slash is how you provide a command. The question mark says it's the equivalent of help. And these are the most common. So set session variables, show model information, load, by will exit out of the interactive mode, or you can begin a multi-line message using 3 quotes. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this. And let's do a quick look and see how many models we have now. Okay, so yes, Daffy.
Daffy too. Yeah.
All right, so let's do the same thing with Quizmaker. So we'll start off, I'll up arrow till I get to the cat. Only this time, instead of Daffy, it's the Quizmaker. This one is a little bit longer because it has more content. And this is, I shamelessly admit to stealing content off of Daniel Miesler's Fabric GitHub repo. Go there, explore the patterns. This one was lifted from it, and I use it to create an LLM that will specifically help write quizzes. And
Nice.
you can see from the model, I left the temperature at 1. I wanted it to be as creative as humanly possible.
Right.
The system message starts here and it goes all the way down there.
Wow. Okay.
So this is why the point about how knowing prompt engineering will be massively helpful to you.
Right. See, that's a whole application written in an LLM.
Exactly.
Right.
Because and as you work with it, you will refine it until it meets the needs of the problem you're trying to solve. And that's where don't think of the AIs as a silver bullet. Think of it as specialized problem solvers. And so the goal, generate questions for a student. If the input section defines student level, adapt the questions to that level, specific steps on what to do, output instructions. So the output instructions, remember I said how you want to provide an example. Right. This is an example of how output should be provided. And then finally, the marker saying that what comes next is input. So using that, let's
is there a specific way these should be structured, like noun, verb, in a sentence structure? So is there a certain section, like tell it to assume an identity, we want it to do this, and then do the output look like this, input output kind of thing? Or is there any kind of specific order or way that it has to go?
You're asking about syntax.
I'm advanced, yo.
I don't know that it makes any difference. I think just okay, what I know versus what I assume based on other things that I know. What I know, I have no idea if the order does make a difference.
Right.
I believe that it will, based upon my knowledge that large language models are probabilistic, and that the way their responses are built begins with the words that they encounter and then branch through. So just as I had to learn the hard way that the order in which I provided instructions in a web page mattered, because it reads from top to bottom.
Right.
So if it's an instruction at the bottom, it will load last,
Right.
especially on a large page back when bandwidth was horrendous. So I think it's going to be the same thing.
Sure.
Every set of instructions or every reference that I've come across that has said how to build this context like structured model always began with the persona definition first. I don't know if it would make a difference. I would love to see the results of an experiment. I don't think I'm going to get to doing that anytime soon,
Yeah.
although I'd love to.
Yeah. No, that, I mean, logically that would make sense. You'd want, out of the whole of the universe, you'd want to say you're the expert in this, and as you go down, you're getting more and more specific in that. That would make, complete sense. It's filtering everything out, right? So you don't want it to ask about nuclear physics if all you want to know about is, cosmology or something like that.
Okay. So here's the command to make the quiz maker model file. And I did the same thing as I had done before. And it took just that long.
Right.
So now, and it's running.
There you go.
All right. From our audience.
Yeah.
What kind of a quiz shall we compose today? Do you have an idea, Amanda? A subject near and dear to your heart?
Subject near. Oh, there's so many. I can't think of anything good. I wanted to think of something funny and not something just like boring cybersecurity. About incident response log analysis.
Boy, you really know how to party there, Amanda. It's, wow.
I was trying to think of something funny. I'm like, I've drawn a blank. It's late. Come on, give me a break.
All good. Who is your target audience? Are these experienced hands, or are these people for certification?
My mom.
Oh,
there we go. There's the
target audience is little old lady from Pasadena.
Non-technical.
Yes.
Yeah, non-technical.
You could put that too, little old lady from Pasadena. Amazing. I do wonder what it's going to come up with, because this would be fantastic.
Okay. Question 1. What is the primary purpose of an incident response log, and why is it essential for organizations? Answer. And the answer provides an incident response log is used to document and track all incidents, including security breaches, system crashes, or other events that affect the organization's systems.
It almost reads like explain like I'm 5.wikipedia or something like that. It doesn't use the big words. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad at all.
So the examples that I used were also to give a little bit of dynamic range. Let's see. Let's do about local solar system astronomy and the target audience. Whoops. Is 5th graders.
Okay.
So what is the order of the planets?
Yeah.
And it left Pluto off.
Bastards.
What planet is the red planet? Mars. What is a moon? And which planet in our solar system has no moons?
Mercury. Well, actually, there's more than one.
No, Mercury is the only one. Even Pluto has a moon.
Venus?
Huh. It may have natural satellites.
To the cloud.
I don't know. That's
Venus has no moons. It and Mercury are the only planets in our solar system without a natural satellite.
It does have a quasi-satellite that's officially been named Zeusv.
You just made that.
Did not.
no, he did not.
Zoozve.
Venus
Okay.
facts.
Wow.
That's Venus facts from NASA Science.
Zoozve. Orbits relatively close to Earth but does not pose a threat to our planet. It's the first
Okay.
identified quasi-satellite of a major planet. Yeah. We also have quasi-satellites, including a small asteroid discovered in 2016.
It's too small to be a moon, right? It was a quasi-satellite.
That's no moon.
Yeah.
That's a space station.
Okay, and to show dynamic range, same setup, only different target audience. College
Okay.
sophomore.
Oh shoot, yeah, there we
Wow,
go.
definitely
Range
longer.
points.
Lagrange points,
Yeah.
yeah.
This is atmosphere. Axial tilt driving seasonal changes. Very nice.
Very nice.
Fantastic.
So, and you know, the question that you had, Amanda, was wonderful.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you shouldn't ask me. It's been a long day.
it's okay.
I should have
Totally.
asked an Easter question. Like we're recording on Easter, right?
Oh, that's right.
I didn't even think about that. Also, happy Easter,
I'd have been
everyone.
a little more organized. I could have made an Easter bunny model file.
Yes,
Nice.
yes.
Too tired to do it now, but
Nice.
but yeah, it wouldn't be that tough.
That's pretty awesome. And the good thing is you did this with, I mean, so okay, so one thing you did mention Threadrippers and GPUs. What are the options for folks that can't afford a $1,200 GPU and the technology to do it at home? Is there there are options for folks like DigitalOcean or something like that?
A lot of stuff that you would do with Jupyter notebooks, you can do with Google Colab.
Okay.
And as you would with other AI spaces or hardware, systems as a service,
Right.
you can upscale and downscale your needs for whatever the duration is. And with Google Colab, if you run something, it wakes up and it gets things spun up. And then if you don't do anything for 20 minutes, it all kind of goes into shutdown mode and would have to be woken up again, which is a power saving feature for them and
Right.
good for them. You can also, I mean, Amazon Web Services are not hugely expensive in the short run. Just make sure that you put limits on how much you can generate.
Right.
Because I have heard about large bills being forgiven. I don't think that's something one should count on.
Exactly. Yeah. They get crazy after a while if you do too many times. So,
Yeah. New account, never had one before, do it once, maybe. But
right.
yeah, like I say, not something you should try and count on. But yeah, there are lots of service providers, and you can do things without having a massive graphics card. Now, you saw how quickly the files created on this current system. My old system, it didn't take that much longer. You could maybe get to 3, which is still bad. And then running, it wasn't
5-year-old MacBook.
heavy. Pardon?
How about like a 5-year-old MacBook? That's the other one I have. That's all I have.
You'd probably do fairly well.
Yeah.
because Macs, by their native architecture, the reason that Macs are wonderful for creatives is because of all of the video processing power, because of how creative applications. So even if it's a 5-year-old MacBook, you probably have more architecture support for running Olama than an equivalent Chromebook or run-of-the-mill Windows-based PC or laptop would have. So I'd say go for it. And similarly, if you have devices hanging around that you don't have a use for, I think I've acquired or inherited 3 or 4 different laptops of different ages. And those are glorious machines for loading bare metal Linux.
Right. Right.
And then you can really pare it down and just do what you need to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that was great. It's super easy. If you're watching this on the audio podcast, I encourage you to come to YouTube and watch the demonstration. And it's nice that we have the opportunity to do this. And I think, it's something I would hope everybody can do. If you can install Linux, you could probably install this. So, and if you can, there's still ways to do this without. I mean, you can run this on Windows as well with Windows subsystem for Linux is available. But yeah, I think we need to learn it. And that's why I'm kind of learning it. I think we failed the industry when everybody was so reticent about moving to the cloud, and then IoT, it was like, oh, everything's bad and whatever. We need to learn how to use this stuff and get ahead of it, or we're going to look like the Luddites again for a few years before people start to learn and embrace.
Any reason why washer and dryer needs to be able to talk to anyone over the internet. I still don't see the need to query my refrigerator from work onto whether or not I have enough milk at home. It's none of my refrigerator's frickin' business.
Well, it wants to be able to remind you when you are low on milk.
You know what? I got a new washer dryer combo. It's like the all-in-one unit, and I didn't even know this was a feature because everything's smart now, right? So it's a smart washer dryer. I was going to play music in my kitchen the other day and realized that I could stream Bluetooth audio to my washer. Like, why? Why is that a feature? I did it because I wanted to see how great the speaker was. But
how good is the speaker?
It's terrible.
Oh. Well, it's only supposed to do polyphonic tones and stuff.
I'm going to give it some really bad reviews just because the speaker quality is just terrible in my.
You take the front panel off, and then you can solder on a nicer speaker, and or a Bluetooth. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Well, I never thought I'd use my the monitors I've got sitting over there that tell me things, but every once in a while I'll be like, set a timer for 15 minutes, or add this meeting to my calendar, because sometimes it'll be like, oh, I've thought about it, and then let me go find my phone, or my ADHD's flaring, and it's like, I'll go find my calendar, and then by the time I forget. So if I can say it immediately, then it's already there. So there are some things to embrace there. I think the biggest problem with IoT is kind of like the same problem we're having with AI. Where's the data going? What are they doing with it? How are they going to use it against us in that case? So
I remember years ago, reading a science fiction novel, and the way that one of the bad guys in the novel was able to keep tabs on what other people were doing was by monitoring their physiological readings. They had a 24/7 digital readout going to a main medical, and they were able to just notice his difference in respiratory and heartbeat and all of that, and basically know exactly what that person was doing.
Wow.
And since they had more than one, they were pretty much able to tell with whom.
Yeah.
Or without whom.
Right.
That's nuts. Yeah. Well,
That power.
what's that?
People don't think about the
Right.
consequences of having access to that kind of information.
Yep. Yep.
And on a cheerful note, roommate, I can smell dinner wafting through the hallways. So I'm to wrap up. It's
Okay.
time.
Yep.
We've
It's
been
time.
doing this 2
Yep.
hours almost.
Yeah, almost.
But
Yep.
much for the invitation. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, Bronwen, can you tell people where they can find you, how they would get a hold of you if they wanted to?
LinkedIn is really the best place. I do also have my own website. They can send me messages there. I haven't got a regular stream or anything as yet. Haven't quite gotten organized enough for that, but it's on the to-do list.
Awesome.
When I
Okay.
when I get to that stage, I will definitely send out press releases.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Ms. Berlin, how would people find you if they wanted to talk about incident response, threat intelligence, usability and security?
Same thing, LinkedIn. And then I will be at RSA next week.
Oh, all right. Yeah, go. You got your calendar open to make,
Take no prisoners.
Yeah,
They're not worth the trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll probably just be standing at our booth nonstop.
Oh.
So show up and find me.
Okay. Yeah, get a hedgehog, so.
I'm so excited because our whole marketing thing I helped with, and it's all around like sleep. And
Oh,
we have
nice.
t-shirts that just say I need a nap.
I need a nap.
Oh.
Oh.
I'm so excited.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Go check Miss Berlin out at RSA. Go check out the table and get a shirt. And hope everyone has fun doing that. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. They're in the show notes. You can find the show notes. I'm also at brianbrake.com on Blue Sky, and I'm on Reddit a little bit. I'm actually taking a little break, but I'm on Reddit normally on various blue team, red team, cybersecurity Reddits. So we'll be back on our stream on Tuesday. I'll be back. We'll be doing some more Python, probably some object-oriented programming as part of the back-end developer bit. So we'll be learning as we go. And Mr. Betch, you can find him on LinkedIn as well. And he was still having some internet issues, so we'll catch him again soon. I'm Brian Brake. And thank you, Bronwen, for coming. Appreciate your time. And Miss Berlin, it's always great to see you. And have fun at our RSA.
Yeah,
all right.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Y'all have a great week. Take care of yourselves. As we're fond of saying around here, you're the only you have. So you need to take care of yourself. And we'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye, everybody.